Joining us now, Congressman Jim Jordan of the beautiful state of Ohio, who, as I read, met with Apple's Tim Cook last week. So there are all of these stories dovetailed together. So we had the situation with Apple where they were accused of the mail drop stuff in China, and then whether or not they were going to drop Twitter from their app store. As it turns out, apparently they patched up their beef. Tell me about this conversation that you had with Tim Cook. What did you ask him?
Well, we had three concerns. We had the App Store issue, which it looks like, as you said, that Elon Musk and Tim Cook have worked that out. Then, of course, there was the issue of them scaling back their advertising on Twitter. Looks like that's been worked out. But what I still have concerns about, obviously, is the influence that the Chinese Communist Party has on American corporations. I mean, it's whether it's Apple, Nike, whether it's Disney, or the entire NBA. And frankly, we should never forget that, we know Dr. Fauci gave us all kinds of information that was not accurate, but the biggest liar of all was, when it came to COVID, was China. So still have real concerns there. But I would say, Dana, my biggest concern overall is government influencing these social media platforms. And we're learning so much about that now with Twitter and what Elon Musk released over the weekend. That to me is a big concern, because it's bad enough what they did, but the idea that the FBI was giving them the excuse to go suppress, as an example, the Hunter Biden story is really what I think is most problematic.
Yeah, we have absolutely irrefutable proof now that that Twitter was acting as an agent of state. And what gets me too, Congressman, is I was hearing some of the spin on MSNBC and CNN. They were saying that, well, Trump wasn't in office when all of this stuff was happening with the New York, with some of these things, or he was in office, and so it's his responsibility because he was president at the time. But that doesn't excuse all of these leftists that have been ensconced in these positions for longer than he's even been interested in politics. Don't you agree?
Well, yeah, it might have been his administration, but it's still the deep state, for goodness sake. I mean, that to me is one of the things that made President Trump such a great president. That is, in spite of everyone in this town being against him, every Democrat, everyone in the mainstream press, half the Republicans, and all the bureaucracy, in spite of all that, he got so much done. So, yeah, of course, the bureaucracy was still against him. He had to fight his own bureaucrats in order to get the things done he told the American people he was going to, and they were working against him. And example number one, of course, is what they did when you had 51 former Intel officials issue the letter. Now, remember, these 51 former Clapper, Brennan, all these guys, they probably still maintain their... Yeah, they probably still maintain their security clearance. Who were they talking in the government when they decided to put this letter together? And then we know the FBI went and talked to social media platforms and say, be on the lookout for Russian disinformation, misinformation. Baloney. That's the Hunter Biden story we knew was true at the time. Now we have proof that they knew as well that they were suppressing this thing. Mm-hmm. That, to me, is the problem, because that was government coercion on private companies colluding with big tech and big media, private companies colluding with big government and big media to keep critical information from we the people just days before the most important election we have, which is election for commander in chief. So this is frightening stuff, and we're committed as House Republicans getting to the bottom of every bit of this, exposing everything we can. So, because the first step in stopping it is to expose it and get the facts out.
Yeah, and we're going to talk more about that. One of the FBI, their FBI lawyer, you just referenced this, who was involved in censoring this story. He was the guy who approved the fraudulent FISA warrant to spy on private people involved with his opposition's political campaign. We keep getting example after example after example of these individuals within the FBI actually working against the American people. This James Baker, this guy. I mean, he's been everywhere. They've got their fingers in all of this.
Jim Baker was chief counsel at the FBI when they spied on President Trump's campaign. He leaves the FBI, goes to Twitter. He's the guy who says, "Oh, it's reasonable to say that this could be a hack, and we should not let this story get out there." And so here you have him on both sides of the equation, but doing the same thing, going after the Republican candidate, President Trump, the Republican candidate for president.
Yeah, they said that there were, according to Matt Taibbi's Twitter thread, which I thought was interesting that it was released with Taibbi instead of, like New York Times or something. It's fitting nowadays that both sides had access to apparently work with Twitter executives and suppress, et cetera, whatever accounts. But due to the overwhelming political bias and political affiliation of all of these Twitter individuals, these executives, these operatives, as very far left Democrats, according to how they voted and how they donated. Republicans really didn't have. I mean, you could say they had access, but whether or not they actually could use said access was an entirely different story. And the interesting thing is, Ro Khanna, one of your colleagues in the House, was apparently the only Democrat who raised any concern about First Amendment issues. How badly does that trouble you? The only Democrat in this whole thing.
Well, it doesn't surprise me because today's left, they want to get rid of the First Amendment. They don't believe in the First Amendment. Today's left says if you don't agree with them, you're not allowed to even talk. And if you try, they're going to call you racist. They're going to call you names. They're going to come after you, your employer. They're going to try to cancel you, and they're just going to attack you. Or in this situation, they're going to take down what you do say. So that's just who today's left is. Yeah, this idea that both sides could make a report. Yeah, you could all make a report, but only one side would get the report taken seriously, and only one side would get any action. And of course, that was the Democrats' position.
Yeah. What do you make of some folks who say, I think James Woods said that he was going to file suit against DNC, and he was talking on social media about the potential for a class action lawsuit because of free speech rights. I mean, you hear a lot of discussion like this. And you mentioned it just a little bit, and I'm coming back to that now. What can House Republicans do to make sure that people are not going to be at the mercy of these private entities, which are acting as agents of state for deep state or partisan left actors?
You can. Well, I think Senator Paul has legislation that says if the government is pressuring and working in concert with these private entities, the government person attacking First Amendment and free speech rights, the government person can be held. There's some kind of responsibility, some kind of action you can take against the person in government. And then you just got to expose it all. Because if you get the truth out there, I always say this is step number one to stopping it. If there's any type of wrongdoing, of course, the Justice Department has to go after the individuals who did the wrongdoing. But our duty in the Congress is to expose everything, get the truth, get the facts out there. And once you do that, you hope that in and of itself stops it. But that has to be the first step. So we're committed to do that, not just in this, but all the other politics at the DOJ. The way they targeted parents in the school board scandal a year ago, the way they're purging members, whistleblowers have told us they're trying to purge FBI members who are conservatives, taking away their security clearance. So we've had a number of whistleblowers, FBI agents come and talk to us, all that as well. All that has to be exposed so that you can end it for hopefully forever.
Yeah, no, we're talking with Congressman Jim Jordan, and we got him for a couple of more minutes. We appreciate his time. I want to ask you really quickly about the fight for House Speaker. Kevin McCarthy, I'm told, doesn't have the 20 votes in order to make it happen. There's a lot of discussion that I'm hearing from people in the House about you, potentially. I know that you said that you'd vote for him, but I don't know whether or not you actually officially threw his hat in the ring as a nomination for it. But I wanted to get your thoughts on that. I mean, if it comes to you, would you do it?
No, I want to be. Look, what I want to do is to hopefully chair the Judiciary Committee and do the very things we were just talking about. Stand up for the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, those two liberties that we enjoy under our Constitution that have been attacked by today's left, and get to the bottom of all these, the political nature of the Justice Department, the terrible things happening on our border, and of course what happened with the Hunter Biden story. So I want to get to the bottom of all that and get the facts and the truth out to the American people. Kevin has done a better job of any leader I've ever seen around this town in keeping our team together. I think, as I've said many times, the guy who gets you to the Super Bowl gets to coach the game. And that's just what I believe. He's worked hard for us to get there. And I'm hopeful that he's going to be the speaker. We got some work to do over the next month as a conference and coming together. But I think we can get that done. We're
going to be watching to see what happens, particularly with the Judiciary Committee, because a lot of the action on the social media stuff is going to come through that. Congressman Jim Jordan, always good to talk with you. I'd love to have you back. Thanks so much.
All right.